They told us to give a disclaimer. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the podcasters, any guests, and do not reflect any of the management, owners, sponsorships, or employees of thereof. Pretty much, if you're soft, don't listen to this podcast.
One thing I pride myself on is just being the same and trying to look out for my folks along the way.
Like, even with all these, big things happening, like, you still mad humble, and you still, like, you have enough clout now where you could easily be like, I'm not fucking with this, I'm not fucking with that.
Oh yeah, motherfuckers, it's on.
Unrestricted podcast listeners, thank you so much for clicking play. Because of you, not only is the audio numbers going up, Utah, you guys been showing up, man. The number one state, the number one supporter on YouTube. We just hit 500,000 views for the year of 2023. Into 2024, I had to bring a very special guest, somebody that I've known for a very long time. I'm actually surprised this is the first time that we've done this. I know you as Scott. I know you as Atheist, but some people might know you as Rhyme Time.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I can't believe we haven't done it either.
Yeah. I would like to start with early days of Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Family.
Mm-hmm.
Region.
Yes.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Central California in like a really tiny like farming town. So my high school had like lettuce fields on three sides of it. We were in the middle of nowhere. And I was out in a trailer in the middle of nowhere. And just this dilapidated, crazy trailer. We were caretakers for like a Mormon-owned campground. So we had this little trailer, but we had 25 acres of like cabins and a baseball field, and it was all kind of run down and old from the 60s and 70s, but it was cool for me. Like, we had to have pigs and chickens, and it was a real like country life. But every weekend, wards would come up and like rent the place out and throw big parties. So every weekend I was just up meeting new people from, that region of California. And I was there from 2nd grade to 11th grade.
I could imagine that being really, really cool as a kid. Like, thinking about adventure, right?
Totally.
In the middle of nowhere with a bunch of farm animals.
Yep.
New people all the time.
Yep.
Probably some different people as well.
Totally.
Different characters.
Yes. Oh, depending on the ward, like, we would have every year, one of the Samoan branches would come up and throw just a rager. It was awesome. As a little kid, I'd like never seen anything like it, but they had the pig going. They brought alcohol, which is like not normal for the Mormon events. And it was the best party ever. And every year we just get excited for it. And so
salute to the Polynesian Mormons out there, because y'all don't do things the normal way.
I know.
Yes. I love it. So different cultures. You grew up in Central California.
Mm-hmm.
Any brothers, sisters, only child?
One brother 2 years younger than me. And so there were 4 of us in the trailer, tiny trailer. I had bunk beds in a trailer. I mean, I was sliding in sideways. Like, the roof was to my face.
When I'm thinking about a trailer, I'm thinking about like Uncle Earl, type of trailer. Or is this like a single wide? Man, it was crazy. It was a 1.5 wide. It was a single wide that someone at some point had like built onto, and so it couldn't move because they had built this rain was inside, raccoons were inside. I mean, there was a hole in the floor that we used to have to jump over in the hallway so you didn't fall to the floor. Like, it was crazy. There was when the rain would come, there was at one year just the insulation that was in the roof filled with water and just burst out the ceiling panel, and it just hung there for years. Man. I mean, we were poor. We were, but we lived there rent free. We kind of got stuck in like if we're still poor and we don't have to pay rent, how are we going to move somewhere else? Yeah.
And so we just did that. Yeah, there was a wood heater that just melted the ceiling, and we couldn't use it. So we didn't have heat. There was time we ran out of water. Like, it was crazy.
Man. What is mom and dad together during this time?
They were at that time. Yeah. they finally got us out. We moved into like my first real house, and they split up like 6 months later.
Wow.
They were just like, oh, this is freedom. Okay. I want all the freedom. Like, we got to go. And so everybody just split. My brother went to he went to New Mexico. I went to San Francisco. My mom went to Monterey. So we all just kind of like ran away from each other for a while.
Who had the house?
We were just renting, so the lucky next owners who got to live next door to a burger place. It was awesome. It was a good 6 months. It was like my 9/11. It was like I showed up. I was like, look at all this. 9/11 happens. My family divorces. We all leave. And I was like, that was a weird 6 months of my life. That was like graduate high school, just take off.
During this time, are you into music at this time?
Huge, yeah, into rap.
So 11th grade, are we talking? Like
it was, 11th grade was 2001 for me.
Okay, so this is Jay-Z.
Oh yeah, huge.
Okay,
yeah, Snoop Dogg, Master P, No Limit. But then in 11th grade, an English teacher of mine like knew that I liked hip hop, and he was like, "Do you know?" He was playing The Far Side one day, and on his just CD player, and I came out. I was like, "What is this?" Like it didn't sound like anything I'd heard before. And he goes, "Oh, it's The Far Side." So I went home and Googled it, but I Googled FARSIDE and got the cartoon. So I went back and he let me borrow the album, and I messaged that guy, found where he was, like, I don't know, 10 years later. And I emailed him. I was like, I'm opening for The Far Side. And I was like, you let me borrow this CD. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, no, it's a bigger deal than you're making it.
Don't take my moment away, Teach.
He's like, I don't care. And I was like, okay.
So
I was like, it's reverse Dangerous Minds. Come on, look what you've done.
You're in San Francisco during this time?
So I was still in like the tiny little farm community till I graduated, and then ran up to San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And when I got to San Francisco for college, it was concerts as often as I could. So I'm obsessed with Bay Area hip hop from that time. Like it was the weird underground backpacker, like Zion I, Crown City Rockers, Gift of Gab, Black Alicious, like that side mixed with Hyphy was having its moment like during that time too. So it was E40, Too Short, those guys. And so we were going to events that would like mix the two together. So literally like it would be the Team, Zion I, the Attic, like it would just flip back and forth for these, Turf Talk and all these guys. And so that was me. And also like I was going to like weird folk stuff. I met my wife and she was taking me to like indie shows that I'd never even thought to go to. And I started dating people up in San Francisco, and they were just blowing my mind with music. Everybody, it was just so much music all the time. And when I moved to Utah, I wanted to keep that going, and it's a different scene, and it took me a while to get oriented here. But once I did, it's just music all the time. I was at a Cut Chemist show last night, and Urban Lounge and Metro Music Hall have a pass, so like a golden ticket pass. You can go to every show. You pay like $200 and you get free entry to every show they do.
Really?
So I just did that this year. I went to everything, and I just bought my one for next year. USANA has one too.
That's
it's the best. Yeah.
I think if you're a concert goer, I think that's the way to go, right?
Oh yeah, and they want you to get the drinks, obviously, But for me, it was so much music this year. Bands I'd never heard of, genres I've never heard of. Yeah, it was cool.
Who was surprising this year?
So Cut Chemist last night put on the best show I saw all year. He spanned in chronological order, playing nothing but 45s, like early jazz, hip hop, funk into 50 years of hip hop chronologically.
Wow.
So it was samples and the actual songs and just blended it all together for like 90 minutes. And man,
I wonder how that prep was. Like that probably took some time to set up a 50 years of hip hop celebration set and do it in order.
On 45s. Like, so just what records do you have? Which ones was he tracking down? Because he needed to fill in a gap in the early 80s. It was...
This was at Urban? Mm-hmm. So you got to think, too, like 45s, you got that sub bass, and like it's hard to keep that thing from skipping.
Oh, totally. And he had a record, you'll appreciate this, like he had 2 45s that he got from, he wouldn't say the name, but he was like a very prominent 1970s Bronx DJ. He got the literal 45s of like some old classic breaks, and the labels were blacked out because that's how they did it back then, because DJs didn't want you to like know their secrets, but he got the actual ones. And it was the best. I love people that are passionate about what they do. And Cut Chemist does all the J5 whole crew's that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, incredible show. So that one was the best. Smashing Pumpkins were good too. There was a lot of good stuff this year, but last night you're getting definitely like recency bias. I came home and like woke my wife up and was like, this was the best thing I've ever done. Like, what?
How was wifey? Is she into hip hop? Does she go to some of these shows?
No.
Was she in the Savage Garden?
I dated a girl that was like her band. And I was like,
Garden?
I didn't know Savage Garden could be somebody's band. I think even Savage Garden would say that's not their band. Like,
that's a dope band name, though.
Yeah, she's huge into Bruce Springsteen, like dad rock.
Classic.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't, man. Let me get into my yacht rock bag.
Same.
Oh, man.
We could go on and on.
Yeah. Dog, like, I was listening to season 4, which is your latest project that you put out, and you made a reference to Limp Bizkit.
Yep.
And I was like, and then you make references, obviously, to wrestling and to hip hop and just different bands. I'm like,
yeah, I was a kid in the trailer in the mid 2000s,
and I grew up in a trailer too. I'm like, is Scott and I the same people? Like, we're the same person?
It comes with it. If you were in 2002, if you were in a trailer, they just gave you a Limp Bizkit album and said, "Here's tickets to WrestleMania." Like,
yeah, Chocolate Starfish is one of my favorites. You always go back to that. What was it? Woodstock footage of him. Oh my gosh.
On the door, crowd surfing on a door. Unfortunate the rest that happened. When those documentaries dropped this year, I was like, oh, that was a dark day for a lot of people.
Oh man, horrible.
I remember seeing clips on MTV just being like, what is this? Like, things are setting on fire. It's the complete opposite of the original Woodstock. But yeah, I was huge into wrestling. Oh, I had all this space. So like my friends and I set up like a backyard wrestling ring and put on backyard wrestling shows. And then I went to pro wrestling school. And like, yeah, so that was before hip hop. That was like my main passion. I was like, I'm going to move to New Jersey. I'm going to go to the Monster Factory. I'm going to be a pro wrestler. And I did it for a little while. And so I wrestled on the same card as like Juventud Guerrera and Greg the Hammer Valentine. Wow. And so I was like known in my like little area of California as like this like pro wrestler. I was El Gringo.
El Gringo.
Big afro. People would drive by and like yell, Gringo. And I was like, hey.
So I want to backtrack now that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
At what point did you fall in love with wrestling? What was your introduction?
It was 1997. I started high school and some friends of mine were watching it. As a little kid, I saw a Bushwhackers match when I was like 7 at my grandma's, and she was like, that's fake. And I was like, it's on TV. Yeah, of course. I know it's fake. And she was like, okay, well, and I didn't. And then my parents were super strict and I couldn't watch any of it. And with hip hop too, it was all edited and all like censored. And I remember like stealing a copy from a friend for Cypress Hill's Black Sunday and just hiding that thing. Like it was, like it was 50 years in prison. So, but yeah, wrestling, the Attitude Era for sure. Yeah. It was The Rock, Stone Cold, all those guys, Bret Hart, the luchadors, the Mexican. I got huge into Mexican wrestling. I was such a nerd. I was buying tapes of like compilations of like Japanese wrestling off like pre-eBay. This is like you go to somebody's like GeoCities website and just say like, I want the best of Chris Benoit, and they send it over. And yeah, I
remember so I lived in Portland for 10 years, and there's a Korean corner market on every corner, and 24 hours, and they would have a videotape section. And I remember seeing Beyond the Mat on there. And I remember seeing ECW tapes with Terry Funk.
Yes.
And I used to get all of them.
Yep, same.
All of them. And then he would have like the bootleg video games. And so we would get the like No Mercy on the 64.
Classic.
And that's where I really learned more about wrestling. And then I ended up going backwards. I think this is the best part is when you get into something and you can go backwards and there's a catalog. My son's in that phase right now. My son's 10 years old. I introduced him to the Attitude Era because we would watch old, like, this is before I came back to WWE. Because for a while there was a gap where like the Cena phase I was out of, like Randy Orton. I was out of that phase. I wasn't there.
I was in San Francisco listening to Black Alicious. Like, yeah, same thing. Attitude Era ended and I stopped for maybe 10 years.
So then I started popping in YouTube, right? YouTube's the greatest at looking at old matches. So I'm showing him Shawn Michaels, D-Generation X. I'm showing, because I'm telling him about China. I'm like, let me show you who China is. The ninth wonder of the world, right? And then now my son, we're watching it now, right? We're in the storyline. We've been in it for about damn near 2 years now.
Yeah.
And now I see him going back and he's watching Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, seeing who Booker T is. Because honestly, it was Royal Rumble, right? We see Booker come out and get eliminated real quick.
Right.
He's like, who's that dude? What's the Spinaroonie? I'm like, you don't know. Oh, man. And I'm like, YouTube Booker T. There you go.
Yep.
Oh man, it's awesome. And whenever I hear somebody that had a love for wrestling, it makes me happy because for a while there wasn't a lot of us. It wasn't the cool thing to be a wrestling fan.
Portland's an interesting city. I mean, this is a deep rabbit hole now, but like it's an interesting wrestling city up there. Like Roddy Piper was from out there, and there's still like a scene out there. I went to a wrestling show in Portland, I don't know, a few years ago, and but I love anybody who I think with the Cut Chemist show, I relate a lot to people who want to dig. So they find something they're interested in, like your son going back and finding all that old stuff. That's what I did. I read a Pro Wrestling Illustrated, see a name, and go, I got to know about this guy. And early days of YouTube, I was watching indie wrestling compilations, but it was something cool about like the pictures in a magazine where it was like that's all we had.
Yeah.
So it's just this picture of this like bloody face diving through the air, and we were like, oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I have no context. He could have been the worst wrestler, but it was a great photo.
Yeah. So at what point do you decide, hey, I actually want to try and make a career out of this?
Yeah. So I was like 17, and I was on the front page of our local newspaper with my backyard wrestling group, and small town. If we were the front page news, just fat kids rolling around on each other. Like that's,
would you say
that's
El
news.
Güero?
El Gringo.
Oh, Gringo.
Yeah, the white boy. Yeah. So we were on the front page of the newspaper, and then that prompted another group who was doing it the next town over to get a hold of us. They're like, hey, we do it too, and we've got a big crowd that comes. So I started wrestling my shows and their shows. And then there was someone in the crowd at their show who had a connection to a wrestling school. And so we worked out a deal with him where he brought a ring to our little town, set it up in an airplane hangar, and just taught us all to wrestle and hooked us up with the little indie fed he was doing. And do you know Bailey, who's one of the current wrestlers now? She's like a WWE like women's champ like 10 times over. She's
the EST? Bianca Blair?
There's Bianca Blair, and one of the main people she's wrestled with is this white girl named Bailey. And she was trained by the guy who trained us. So that's like his big claim to fame, is like one of his people made it.
That's dope.
But yeah, I was going to these shows anyway, and then now I'm on the shows, and it was the coolest. It was my first taste of performing. And so it was like everything I've done sort of goes backwards, where I ended up just rapping in front of a crowd was the easiest thing I'd ever done. Because in wrestling, it hurts. And then I got into rap battles, and that's hard because you're on offense and defense. I did stand up, which was even easier compared to battles because you're only on offense. And then with doing, rap shows, that's the easiest thing in the world for me. I was like, no one's trying to hit me with a chair. No one's like yelling insults back at me. I'm not bombing like a comic can do. So that came real easy to me. I had already done so many harder types of performance that I started out very comfortable on stage just rapping.
I think it bleeds into your music too. If you listen to season 4, there's a song where it's experimental, right? And you're saying, yo, I'm getting drunk while making this song, right? And then at the end, you're like naming off all these other songs where you're like, they definitely were drunk making the Star Spangled Banner or whatever, right? Like, that's very, to me, wrestling like that's you riffing.
Yeah, totally.
You're spitting a promo right now into this greater thing.
Yes.
So if you really take a step back, I don't think wrestling's ever left your talent.
No, not at all. We there's a local group. There's a couple local wrestling groups who've been really good to us, and one was UCW, and we got to film a music video in their ring with this nerdcore rapper named Megaran. He came to town, and I was like, do you want to do a song about wrestling? And so the music video's in 3 phases. And one, I set up the old backyard wrestling ring. I got hit with a light bulb, and then it moves on to like the indie wrestling. And then Megaran comes in, and we have the stare down, and in the ring, smoke going. And yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, wrestling. I'm huge into wrestling again, like AEW now, and going back and watching the old stuff. I've got the Peacock subscription, so they've got everything, We throw a Royal Rumble party every year where like 6 of my friends come over and draw numbers, and for the 30 contestants that fight in the Rumble, and the winner gets a bunch of money and there's prizes and it's like a whole thing.
That's dope.
Yeah. So wrestling's so cool. There's nothing like it.
So ultimately, what made you stop? What stopped that path?
I was not that good. I was not in shape. Still am not in shape. You know, it's just like hard when you're like wrestling guys that are like doing steroids in the back, and like these haggard guys. It was like a very like clear path to misery. Like seeing these guys, like that movie The Wrestler, is just like, oh God. Like, and these guys haven't even been famous and they still look like this guy. So I went to film school up in San Francisco, and that's what sort of changed. I thought I was going to be a screenwriter. So I went to film school, met my wife. She's from Utah, followed her here, and then started making hip hop here.
Since you've been alone, your family broke up pretty much. They all split up.
We're good now, but
so there was nothing holding you back to California.
No, it was a big change for sure. I loved how like liberal San Francisco was. I was still Mormon when I met my wife, and then not Mormon shortly after. She got me out. She was like, "Hey, you're pretty miserable," and I'm like, "Yeah, it sucks that this is true, though. It sucks that this is the one true church." And she was like, "But it's not," and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" Like, oh, no one has ever told me that before. Okay, I'm out. I never wanted to be here. So
it took your wife just to be like, "Hey, wake up."
Yeah, hey, dumbass, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, right. Oh, okay.
You know what's funny is that typically it's opposite. You hear somebody in Utah being enlightened and being like, oh, there's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
But somebody from a bigger state of California being enlightened. Well, I guess you're from a small town too, though.
That we were, and the church out there was weird. Now, I found out that we grew up hearing, oh, if you think we're strict, you should talk to kids in Utah, like those poor Utah kids. I talked to my wife. We had it strict because we were the only ones out there. So it was a little culty. It was a little, they banned Harry Potter, like the pretty hardcore stuff that like wasn't happening where Mormons are everywhere. And so, but my wife was always cool. She knew at like 14, like, this is not cool. Like, I'm a woman. Like this, I'm getting the raw end of the deal here. Mm-hmm. She was in punk bands. She's like ran from the cops. Like she's cool. Like she's way cool. And she's got her PhD now. And yeah, she's pretty amazing. And so it really just took her just being like, flip the switch. Hey, you're done. Oh, I don't know why I couldn't do that myself.
Where did you land in Utah when you first got here?
She gave me coordinates of like, we were looking for apartments. She's like, from this south to this south. And so we landed in Sugar House.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And now we bought a house in Rose Park. So
nice.
Yeah. I was like, there's a lot of cheap stuff in American Fork. And she's like, absolutely not. Like,
no.
Salt Lake.
You don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She's like, you don't know. I was like, we're going to pay more, but it's going to be nice. So and yeah.
You land in Utah. Mm-hmm. You are, obviously you're into hip hop.
Yeah.
At what point do you find your groove? How do you get welcomed into making music here?
So it all started with battles, U92. We'll take it right back to day one. So it's just, I see an ad on YouTube, come down, try to rap battle. I had done a little freestyle stuff back in California, and I weirdly had a freestyle battle with a guy named Thesaurus in Monterey because we were both living there at the time.
The same Thesaurus.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Now they call him the 2-time champ of everything. Mm-hmm. So he's arguably, top 10 names in battle rap history, like a legend. And I was his first on-camera battle. He wasn't anybody and I wasn't anybody. He just went on to become somebody. And I just ran into him for a Mike Masters show that we brought him out to perform. I walk up to him and he goes, I know you. And I was like, yeah, you do. Like 2004, we had a battle in Monterey and he was just like mind blown. He was like, oh my God, like, you're El Gringo, because I rapped as that name too. I just took the name straight from, it's a miracle I'm not El Gringo as I rap right now, but that's what my first battle was. And so yeah, I moved here and I went to U92 and I battled and it went well and they brought me back and I started doing freestyle battles at Barbary Coast out on State Street. Weird, like front half of the room is all hip hop kids, back half of the room is all like old white bikers. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, the bikers hated that the battles were happening there, but then I would come out and try to be funny with it, and I like found my groove, and so it was good. I won some good money out there, won some good battles, and
these at the time, these were freestyle battles.
Yep.
So you didn't know who your opponent. You might have known a little bit about who your opponent is because of the people in the room.
Sure.
But typically, you didn't know who you were battling.
Yep.
A lot different than the way battles are done now.
Totally. Yep. Now you get 3 months of prep and you write it, and there's no beat, and there's it's
like a fight. Like,
totally.
It's like a prize fight when you're battling today.
It's like a pro wrestling match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without knowing who's gonna win.
That's right. I know I'm gonna win.
Eli begs to differ.
I know. Believe me.
Eli smoked your ass.
This is insane. I'm so mad about that
good
battle.
Ripped on the bottle that dropped though.
Oh, that whole night was crazy. That was good. I like having judges judge. It was, because like at the end of that battle, I was like, oh, I won. And then he was like, I won. And I like having if you're not famous, if you're famous, there's no reason to have judges, like some 3 local nobodies like judging your battle. But I like it. I like getting a sense of the room. I like weighing the crowd control. Eli and I talked about this. I thought this was interesting because we were disconnected about how we could both have such different ideas about how that battle went. And we realized that I rap for the people in the room. Mm-hmm. I care about like the people who showed up and paid the tickets and like the 50 people there. He writes more intricately, more intelligently, deeper bars to go back. He's rapping for the people to watch later on YouTube and go unpack it and pause it and rewind it. And I'm there treating it honestly more like a stand-up show where like, let's have a good time. Like I'm throwing a party there. And he's writing a thesis there. And it's 2 different ways to do it. And that's one of my favorite battles I've ever done.
I think you guys are entertaining.
Yeah.
Because I understand both sides, right? This is something that I always go back and forth with on battle rap is you don't have to do anything. But I think that there has to be a healthy balance because now you are being judged not by the people in the room, but by the people viewing.
Totally.
Not only the week that it drops, but like years later.
Totally.
Right?
And you have to be, you're being held responsible for things that you do because it lives forever. I battled a guy named Cadillac Ron who I loved watching his battles.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. And I battled him, and it was a great battle at the time. But I rap about how his whole gimmick was that he was gimmick. It's a pro wrestling.
Yeah.
They're the same thing, honestly.
Exactly.
But he was addicted to heroin in real life, and I rap about that, and I rap about how he's going to die young, and then he did die young. And so you go back to the comment section now, and it's people now who are doing the deep dives back into rap history, and they come across my battle with no context, and they're just like, that's messed up. Like, how dare you say that? And I was like, it was funny at the time.
You can't. There's a certain breed that intakes this content, right? And you can't take it super serious. In some of these battles, it does. There was a point in time when Utah battle rap there was a lot of tension between some artists, and it got
I know
a lot.
Who you're talking about?
It got a lot real, right? And but now you look at it and it's like, okay, that was a moment. But I feel like guys now, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like guys now understand that it's more than just like the win or the loss. It's like, this is a business too. We need to be entertaining.
Totally.
So one, Mike Masters can bring me back, but at the same time that people know my name.
Yep, absolutely. I took from battles the little notoriety I got, and I turned it into everything I've done with rap. I was not making music. I didn't know how to make music. I didn't know people making music. And so I went and found a producer, and off the name of my battles, started making music. And that's how Atheist was born. And, 10 plus years later, I've done everything I've wanted to do. It's pretty cool. It's like I got off the couch and did it, which is my biggest thing. You got to do it. You got to get off the couch. You got to do it. If you're thinking about doing it, just do it. It's somebody dumber than you is doing what you wish you could do. So you're smart enough to do it, but they got off the couch. So get off the couch. That's my whole thing. Like I think back to the exact moment I was on the couch, new to Utah, didn't know anyone, and saw this YouTube ad where it was like, hey, do you want to come down to U92 and do something completely scary and, mortifying and could go horribly wrong on live radio? And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just gonna, why not? Let's try it. And I went down, and the snowball that has happened, I've now opened for Snoop Dogg. I was on America's Got Talent. I was just like, all this stuff because of that one decision to like get off the couch and just try it. It has all been linked back to that first day. So yeah, that's I tell everybody, like, get up and do it. Just do it.
Yeah, man. You can't get better unless you're in the game, right?
Totally. You can watch and I'm a big fan of being a fan, but you can't, I don't know. I can't like be on my deathbed with regret about what if I had. So I was like, I love wrestling. I want to be a wrestler. So I did it. A lot of people said they wanted to be wrestlers, never did it. Mm-hmm. I did it with the means that I had at the time. And then I found a school, and now I was like going into college just like, this isn't scary. Like, you haven't until you've been like booed by 700 people like in a middle school gymnasium. Like, it's not that, you know. And just all snow. You just don't know what's going to happen if you get up and do it. That's my big takeaway from life.
What's something that you haven't got on the couch to do that you want to?
Oh, that's a good question. I think screenwriting was a big one.
The whole reason you went to school was for that.
Yep. I went up there and I was writing screenplays, and I was a TA for somebody who was like, you got to go to UCLA to go get your master's. And I got comfortable, and LA seemed too scary and too far away. So I just did a master's degree in San Francisco, where if you're going to be a screenwriter, you go to New York, you go to LA. That's just it. And I stayed in my comfort zone and stayed in San Francisco. And that kind of just died on the vine as I came to, but I mean, luckily I met my wife and now Utah and everything else, but who knows where that could have taken me. That would have taken me in a completely different direction. I think stand-up too. My Donnie Benelli, who is in House of Lewis with me rapping, he got cancer. He got stage 4 cancer a few years back, and used that as a wake-up call to like start doing stand-up. And he would go to the Wise Guys open mic, and we both started at the exact same time. We were doing the same open mic, and then pandemic hit. I stopped. He didn't stop. Last night, he and Jay Whitaker, one of my favorite people in the world.
Hey, shout out to Jay, man. I love Jay.
Genius writer, like so funny. But him and Donnie just did a sold out show at Wise Guys in West Jordan. And I was like, you're doing it, man. Like, you did it. That's what you got off, and you kept doing it. Like, you got off the couch, you kept going, and I didn't. And now I'm watching that show. And so, we all do our own things, I guess, but
it's not too late.
No, I could definitely jump into it.
The cool thing about it is that I hear the comedian side. I don't think that's ever left you. It's in your music. It's in your bars.
For sure.
Like, you have bars that are comedic.
Yes.
And you can use those same bars on the stand-up stage as well.
Totally.
And I also look at, you talk about screenwriting, I also see you directing music videos.
Yeah.
And doing that. So you're using these talents now. How can you use them in a different way?
Totally. And what's the best way to do it? You only have so many, like, limited time, limited energy. What's the most effective way? With the stand-up, I think that it's battle rap scratches the same itch as stand-up does, but I don't have to fight for 3 minutes of stage time every night, 10 nights a week. So it's just, I get to write now. I'm at a spot where I've like earned the spot where I get to fly somebody in from out of state. I have 3 months to prep, and it's sort of like filming my special instead of like having to grind it out and do freestyle battles every night or go do little stand-up spots in, terrible bars all over town. I've got to a level now where I just get to do it the way I want to do it. So in March, we're going to fly in somebody. I don't think contracts are signed. I don't know if I can say who it is, but somebody I've called out and have wanted to battle for a long time. We're flying him out for this huge event we're doing with Mike Masters in March, and I'm going to battle him. So I'm starting to write, starting to think down ideas, think about how to create the set, basically, the battles, the rounds. And so that's how I'm choosing to use that talent. But I do get jealous. I see Donnie up there, and it's like the crowd's going crazy. He's got these great jokes, and I was like, man, it could have been me. But you can't do it all, I guess.
I beg to differ. I think you can. I think you can. And I think you can do it in a very, very good way, because you have something that these other comedians don't have. You have experience with using a mic. You have experience with even wrestling and entertaining, right?
Yeah.
You know how to entertain. And comedians, some of them know how to do that, but some of them just know how to stay in their one lane and say their joke. That's it.
For sure.
Right? So I see a tremendous future in whatever you do. But I think, honestly, I think that comedy is I think that's something that you should definitely.
We gotta go because you got to do it too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna turn this right back on you. Like,
I'm down. I need to get off the couch. Right. I just gotta go. I gotta do it. I gotta.
We've talked about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also want to look at other things too, and other opportunities. Like, is there improv? I was talking to Beans and Rice. I was like, I don't see an improv show. I don't ever see. And maybe I'm just blind to it, but I don't know if Wise Guys does an improv night. But it would be really cool if guys like Beans and Rice that do a good job hosting, that do a good job with improv, that are guys that think outside the box and are unfiltered and let you be who you are. I think it would be cool if they hosted a improv night, invite their friends, and let's have a good time. My boy, Cypher Sounds, he does improv, right? So he did a really cool show where he would bring his friends, like Fat Joe, come in and do improv, and he brought Black Thought and he come and do improv, because a lot of the people don't realize that these guys are more than just musicians. Like you're more than a musician.
Right.
You can have fun with this thing too. And bring laughs.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And you have life experience that other people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, Fat Joe has more stories than I'll have in 10 lifetimes. Like, that guy has lived his life. Like,
anytime I hear that Mike Tyson story with him and Pun, I lose my mind.
Same. Just chasing around a club. Like, yeah.
Yo, Pun, yo, let's fuck these niggas up. It's so funny. It's so honest and true. That makes it funny.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that a lot of rappers, I keep hearing, like, when Donnie was getting into stand-up, you hear a lot of whispers of like, oh, I want to try that. And I'm like, you should. You already, if you do rap battles, stand-up is easy. It's half the battle. You prepare your material the same way. You get up, you try it out, and no one's hurling jokes back at you. So it's like the easy half of battling. Let's just go do it.
Unless you get a heckler.
Get
him off the stage.
And then your freestyle game comes into play, and like you're just like, oh, I'm more prepared than any other, comedian on this stage tonight. Like, you heckled the wrong one. Yeah.
So at what point did this group House of Lewis come about?
Yeah. That was, they were a group before I met them, and I was doing everything on my own. And there were, a couple rappers I was doing stuff with, Dr. Nick and
Dr. Nick used to owe me money. You owe me $300 from the Urban, what was it? Urban something festival at Barbary Coast.
Barbary Coast.
You owe me $300. I haven't forgot. What was that, 2017? 6?
I'll shoot him a text.
Dre said you owe money.
Yeah, those guys, I was doing, they were on my album. I treated my first album as like hey, let's get to know everybody in the scene. So it was like Dr. Nick, Be Still, Lefty Two Guns, Negrodamus, like all these names that I was seeing do cool stuff. I was like, well, let's get them on a song. Like, let's meet everybody. And so all types of genres, all types of subgenres and performers, it was cool. And based off that first album, I really just sort of like got into the scene and saw what it was and then grew it from there. And part of that was House of Lewis. I saw them open up for Pat Maine at Urban Lounge and was like, oh, I like what these guys do. It's kind of funny. It's definitely different. I don't know what this is. So Chance Lewis owns a studio in Provo. And so I was like, I'm looking for a new place to do my next album, Topanga. Let me hit him up. And so I just started showing up, and then I got the House of Lewis guys on that album. We just started hanging out, get to know each other. And at the end of the album, I was like, hey, could we put like a House of Lewis logo on this album? And that kind of led to like, all right, you're part of the group. And I was booking, you know what it was? I was booking shows with I had one album out, and I was booking shows where the sets were longer than the material I had. So I booked a 60-minute gig at the Tooele Boy Scout Jamboree, which is insane. And still to this day, like maybe the most fun show we've ever done. But I didn't have that much clean material, but I knew they did. I knew we could pool our stuff together. So that was the first like me and House of Lewis together. And we did this show, and it was like mosh pits, and there was like a conga line. These kids were like so weird and funny, and just like nerdy little kids. And we cobbled together 60 minutes of like clean hip hop. I was censoring my own songs, and but from there, I would just had the hustle in me to like go book shows that they wanted to do. And I was like, well, come with me anytime you want to do a show. Like it could be a group set. And it just sort of naturally morphed into that. And then from there it was, America's Got Talent and on. And so, it's been a crazy ride with them. Then Donnie got cancer. And so we're trying to figure out what to do with that. He was going to have surgery on his tongue. And so we had a massive studio session where anything he had ever rapped in his phone, like any little scrap of something, we're like, record it all. Like, let's do it before the surgery. And so he just rapped for hours, and it was just like this whole, I think, kind of cathartic, like got it out. And now we're using it to like piece together new songs and make stuff out of it. And so it was cool. And shout out to Donnie. He just got scanned his 3rd time cancer-free.
I love that.
I mean, you asked me a year ago today, it was looking way different. He had a surgery. They couldn't get it all out. It was dark. It was a tough time back then. And he just like fought through it and never missed a treatment, and really just like, got his way up to the U to get his, radiation, his immunotherapy, everything. 3rd scan, and he's cancer-free right now. I went from stage 4 to 3 clear scans in a row. So it's the best.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I would love to have him on the show and talk to him
I'll text him right now. He'd love it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to laugh through your pain, right?
Absolutely.
And I think as a comedian, man, that for me, that would be tough to do as a loved one. But I think when it's yourself, like, what other option you got, man? You got to fight and laugh.
He did a roast battle, which is like rap battling, with no rapping. And this girl roasted him so bad, like the best roast joke I've ever heard. She goes, "Oh, Donnie Benelli's a white rapper, and they're actually making a movie about his life. It's called 8 Months." And it was before.
Damn.
It's before he had tested clean. It was before. I mean, like, he was in the depths of cancer, stage 4 cancer, and she was 8 months. And I mean, the crowd went insane. And I was like, "Sorry, Donnie." And he's like, "She just roasted me worse than my radiation technologist." Like,
oh shit.
Yeah, it was one of the best moments of the year. It was incredible.
How was the America's Got Talent experience?
Weird. It was it was super weird. It was like, everybody on that show has a story. We didn't really have a story. For a while, they were calling us the dad rappers. They were like, "Oh, are you the dad rappers?" And we were like, 2 of us have kids. Like, 2 out of 5, I guess. Like, we're older, we're white. And they kept, like, the producers were like trying to get us. They were trying to help us out. They were like, "You want to be successful? Like, what's your sob story?" But Donnie didn't have cancer yet, so we didn't have anything.
Hit us up now, AGT.
Yeah. Oh man, Donnie would kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Jesus Christ.
So it was a cool experience. It was so stressful. I mean, I must have put on 50 pounds of just stress eating, like trying to get all the guys organized and get us time off work. And they flew us out to LA a few times, and they didn't air our first one. We did our song Shake Face, and the crowd went insane. It was the second, but they never aired it. They aired the second one that didn't go so great. And it was fighting with producers about what songs we wanted to do. And we were like, "They love Shake Face, let's do some of our others." And they were like, "Hey, will you cover Vanilla Ice?" And we were like, "Absolutely not." So I'm fighting with my guys who are like, "Absolutely not." I'm trying to work with the producers because I'm like, they could cut us from the show anytime and never air any of our stuff. So they're asking for Vanilla Ice. We're refusing to do that. And finally they were just like, we were like, can we do like a cool medley? We have a DJ. Scratch Mo can like blend together Black Sheep and A Tribe Called Quest, and can we do something cool? And they were like, "Nah, just do whatever you want." So we did one of our songs and they just voted us off. But the coolest moment of the whole thing was the first time Shake Face was amazing. My dad was in the crowd for the first time seeing me rap in person. My grandma was there. My stepmom was there, like cheering us on. They voted us on. They were like, "You guys are great. We'll see you next time." It was amazing. They didn't air that, but it was amazing. When we come out on stage for the second time, Heidi Klum sees us and starts singing. This is off camera. She starts singing Shake Face. She's like, shake your face, shake your face. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best day of my life. Like, this is about to go very well for us. And it didn't. we sang this song called We're All Gonna Die and That's All Right. And they just, and we should have known. We have other songs. I don't know why we picked that one. They finally were like, all right, do whatever you want, see how it goes. And then it didn't go well. We were like, I get maybe Vanilla Ice wouldn't have been so bad.
I think having that experience, one will help, just knowing that television is so scripted, right? They're gonna push, like the producers, right? They're gonna push and push and push. But at the same time, like, you have the internet too now, so hopefully the people that seen you on TV, it crossed over.
Totally.
And that was how many years ago?
Yeah, that was probably like 2015 now, 2016, somewhere around there. It was I've been in like business meetings for my day job, and I was sat across at this like boardroom table, and one of our clients was like, I know you. And I go, no, you don't. He's like, no, I know you. And my boss is just like foaming at the mouth, like wanting to impress this client. And he's like, he was on America's Got Talent. He's like, that's where I saw you. And they're like, rap right now. And I was like, I'm going to kill myself. Like
ice, baby.
Yeah. They're like, that's our favorite.
It's such a sketch. Didn't you used to do a sketch show, or you were trying to?
I did 3 episodes of something called Rhyme Time Television, and it didn't. I didn't have the money. It was so expensive. I had a whole crew. We had Jay Whittaker was my first guest, and Whit Hertford from Jurassic Park was one of my guests, and Megan Joy, a singer who was on American Idol, was one of the guests. And yeah, I tried to do this like variety show on YouTube. The episodes are still up. It was so much fun. Every episode ended with a pillow fight. Shout out to Muse Music. They're closed now, but they let us like have free reign of the venue and do what we wanted. So it was like,
that in Provo?
It was, yeah. It was right next to Velour. Yep. So yeah, I'm always doing something. And when I look, I do it all. Everything I do is for like trying to fight deathbed regret. That's what I don't want to be 80 going, I didn't do anything with this life. Especially, I think my rap name's Atheist, but I am an atheist, and like, I think this is all we get. I'll deal if it's not, I'll deal with the rest later. But like, I'm living life now, and I'm trying to just pack in as much fun stuff as I can. Yeah. And so we, a friend of mine, he got a job. So we were doing a video podcast show called Have Fun, Die Anyway, where we were just going and trying fun stuff. And that was the whole show. So we learned how to do pro wrestling. We learned how to do horseback riding, like any fun stuff that people do. We were like, let's do it. I was in talks to do a demolition derby. Like, we had the car. I was ready. And then my friend got a job for Mr. Beast. So they flew, which hats off to him. He just released a video that he was the head editor on, and it's got like 74 million views in like 4 hours. I mean, record breaking.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's the lead editor on this one that's out now called like, what is it? It's like 2 people had to stay in this one room for 100 days to win like $500,000. And he like made all the editing. He took 100 days of footage.
Oh my gosh.
Down to 30 minits and told a cohesive story about these 2 contestants.
I hope he's in therapy.
They gave him 3 weeks off.
Okay.
They were like,
oh yeah. I mean,
it was 4 grueling months of editing every day and just like sitting down with Mr. Beast and being like, hey, and there's so much pressure. Like, no, the number 1 YouTuber in the world. Mm-hmm. And so he's there face to face with him and just going, hey, I think this is good. I think this is good. And they're scrapping stuff and they're killing babies. And they're just, they're narrowing it down. He said he had a cut that was like 2 hours that he's like, this is perfect. We can't trim anymore. And then you got to trim it down, 30 minutes. So it's just, how do you tell a story with that much footage? And it was, 100 days, 24. So, 2,400 hours down to a half hour. Insane.
Yeah.
So that show got.
Are those episodes
stopped.
up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, if you look on Mr. Beast, it came out like last week.
No, your episodes, the one that you and your friend did.
No, so he's got a NDA with Mr. Beast, like you can't have your own YouTube channel. So they're waiting. They'll come out.
Okay.
Yeah, but that project's just on hold for now. But on to the next thing. So Mike Masters came back. Now I'm doing Mike Masters stuff. And I'm helping direct the episodes or direct the events now, which is huge. And I'm taking all the stuff I've learned from the variety show, the podcasts, all that stuff. And I'm like now a part of that team, the behind the scenes team, which is I love.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting old. I mean, nobody needs to. How many 40-year-old battle rappers do we need? I don't know that we.
I mean, and they're all 40, aren't they?
It's weird, that generation.
Yeah, they're all old.
Thesaurus is still doing it. He had like the year of his career this
Danny
year.
Myers got to be in his 40s, right?
Yeah.
Disaster got to be almost there.
Yep. Yeah, they're
all those guys.
Yeah.
Nate is there.
Yeah. So like that whole generation like that was big when we were doing it before. Are still doing it, which is so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe how many of the local guys were still up for doing it. Guys who hadn't done anything in music or battles in 10 years. Because Mike Masters took a 10-year break. And when I came back, I thought it'd be a whole new crop of people. But it's Pat Main, it's Eli Ace. I mean, people are flying themselves out for these Mike Masters shows now. And I can't
showing up too, though. Like Pat showed up. He did really good.
Insane.
I thought Lefty's bars was good.
Yes.
Johnny Lingo. Oh my gosh, man. That coin bar,
Yeah.
I lost my mind.
It was a very cool experience to see that like the crowd is still there. We're doing bigger shows than ever. We're 10 years older now, so we've got experience. We've got money. We're flying in Disaster. We're flying in Marv One, like biggest names ever. Danny Myers, like, you know, and we're putting on events that have like moments that are going viral. Like battle rap fans are saying, you can see it on Reddit, you can see it on message boards being like, how is this happening in Utah? Why is Marv One versus Disaster finally happening after 20 years of wanting it? And it's happening at Quarters in Salt Lake City. And it's all because of Nate and Jer. And they just
got chills.
It's, like, I mean, it's big. I've been so focused on just like my battles. But now that this last event I got to direct and I got to see it, I was like, oh, we have Lada Zay. We have Lush One and Callie Smooth like doing the commentary on the pay-per-view. We have pay-per-view? Like it blows my mind that the business that they've built in the last year. We were doing stuff at Up Rock in front of 30 people, and you know it was cool back then. And the sense of community with Mike Masters, when that left, Salt Lake hip hop died. You know, there were new scenes and up and coming rappers, and there was always something, but Mike Masters was the glue that brought in the producers, it brought in the battle kids, it brought in the rappers, and we all met each other. And everybody who featured on my albums were either battling at those events or just showing up to those events. And when Mike Masters stopped, it really, I came back, I'm seeing people for the first time in a decade. I'm just like, I haven't seen Eli Ace in 10 years, and we're catching up like no time has passed. And now we're battling, and now I love Mike Masters.
He's about to be a doctor.
I know. He's just got really a paper published. I was like, look at us growing up.
Pat Main, the dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Nate's a dad?
Nate's a dad, and he seems so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I'm over at his place and see him with the kid, I'm just like, oh, man, like, this was the right choice. Like, he's so happy. And he's working so hard. I mean, he's got his day job. Now, Mike Masters is another full-time job, and it's a lot of sacrifice, which is why I offered, Nate wasn't getting to battle. So he's just like, I miss battling. And I said, well, I can come in and try to take over some of your responsibilities. I won't battle on this event, so you can. So he battled Spades, and he had the battle of the night. So it was, I mean, oh man, it's on pay-per-view now, and it will be on YouTube soon. But Spades versus Gambino Grimes, battle of the night for sure. It was the young we're taking it back to wrestling. Yeah. The young up and comer versus the owner of the league. You know, it's a little Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon. It was a great storyline, and the battle paid off, and you got to see that Nate is not just like running the league. He's not just the business guy. Like,
well, Nate needed that night too, though. Right?
Absolutely.
His last performance wasn't really that good.
Yeah.
You know, he needed to bounce back. And Spades coming off of a really good battle. That first round at Liquid Joe's was crazy. Man. Mountain West Showdown number 6.
Yep.
That first round was nuts.
Yeah, we woke up. We were like, okay.
Oh, he's here.
Spades has battled at every event. Spades has won at all. His first loss was to Nate, you know, but he was 5-0 headed into that battle. And that wrote itself.
That loss doesn't hurt him. That loss doesn't hurt him.
Because he showed up. Like, I told him that right after the battle. I was just like, right before the battle, I was like, win or loss doesn't matter. Like, the judges, whatever. Like, what you just need to do is show up and perform. And he did. And that was the best.
It's only gonna make them better.
Oh, absolutely, because you train with the best, you become better. You know, if you keep battling mid cards, you don't learn anything. That's how I felt. Just battled A-Ward and did terribly. I hated that battle, but I learned a lot. I learned like what to do, what not to. I tried to go more bar heavy over jokes, and that didn't really work. I learned we structured the completely based off of this, what happened with A-Ward and I. A-Ward didn't want to be on pay-per-view, so our battle that was supposed to be at 9:30 p.m. happened at 1:30 in the morning. We were the very last battle because we could turn the pay-per-view off. Crowd was gone. I'm tired. He's tired. It was just, and so now when I came in to help direct, I was like, we're going to restructure these Mike Masters events where we're going to start with mid-tier battles. We're going to then have the headliners in the middle of the show at 9 when the peak amount of people are there. And then for anybody who wants to stay, you can watch the young up-and-comers close out the night. And you know where I got that from was the Comedy Store in LA. I went to go see Ali Wong and Joe Rogan and all these comedians, and that's how they structured the show. Where it was like, oh, these guys are on TV. I don't really know them, but oh, that's cool. Oh, the huge names. And then for an hour, it was guys who worked the door, who were trying to get time on stage, and these like up and comers. And I was like, that's the way to do it.
I think that should be the blueprint for any event.
Any event,
because I was literally just having this conversation. I think it was with Will Wonder, and dog, a lot of us are dads. A lot of us are family men.
Yes.
So to be up and out until 1:30 in the morning,
it ain't cute anymore.
No, we're leaving. We're leaving at 11:30. We're leaving right before midnight, right as the main event's going on. So if we can get that main battle between that hours, those hours, that's lights out. That's how you should do it.
Absolutely, because you can't start at 3. So I think we're going to do fewer battles in a night. I think 12 battles is way too many. I want to stick around 8 battles, and I think that structure is perfect. And I love giving the up-and-comers a chance, but the up-and-comers don't deserve the full crowd of people who are, at the highest energy. And I was like, they need to earn it by going on in front of the 50 people who are left at the end of the night. And it worked out really well. Lotta Zay pulled me aside and was like, that was great. Like, I'm sick of going on at 1 a.m. for nobody. And, everybody's tired. Even Cut Chemist last night, it was, by the time it was done, it was probably 12:30. My back was hurting. My knees were hurting. I'm just like, I was like, that was the best concert I've ever been to. But like, oh my God, I wish it had happened 3 hours ago, you know? So we're, the rap dads are in charge now. We're going to change things up.
So, what do you feel? Mike, it was a year back, right? You're both a spectator, you're both a performer, and now closing out 2023, you're involved, you're part of the team. What do you feel like you guys did really well at, and what do you feel like it needs some help?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think that our main strength was coming back strong. We didn't do something just to kind of like play around and see if the audience was still there. We knew the audience would be there. So we jumped right in and we started putting on events, bringing out big names, and just said like, let's hit the ground running. And we ran. I think that we need to figure out what we want from a venue and what we don't want from a venue. We're playing around with all ages versus 21 and up. We're trying to figure out what to do with these young up and comer, like the draft cards. I think this last draft card, we had 12 battles, and that was not a draft card. And we had some of the biggest battles in Mike Masters history at a draft, which was supposed to be like for the farm league. And so I said, either we're going to do all big shows or we're going to mix it up. Is a draft or is a draft a pay-per-view? And so we're trying to figure out some of that stuff, find a balance, find what works. There's so many out-of-state battlers contacting Nate and Jer saying like, I want to come out. So they're like, we could become a battle league for these these Disaster versus Marv 1. Like, we could go into business of just being a great host for incredible battlers who are already famous. Or how do we try to weave in our own guys? And that's what Mountain West Showdown was. So I think that it's a big learning experience this year. We're learning individual by individual who's taking it seriously, who's not, who just wants to do it because they used to do it and they aren't passionate about it anymore. I think we could do a better job inspiring new young rappers to come up, and the drafts will be how we do that. It's hard to get on a card and give somebody stage time when you've got, Danny Myers wants to be on your card. So you go, well, now this little 19-year-old who's going to choke 3 rounds in a row doesn't really, where do we put him? Why would we put him on there? And so the development league, it's WWE and NXT. It's like you need that next crop because I'm not going to battle forever. Pat Maine's not going to battle forever. And then if you don't have that like next generation of spades coming up, then you're stuck with nothing. Yeah. And then you are just a host, you're just a studio for other people to come and perform on because you pay them. Yep. And I think Nate and Jer and I like really do want to like foster that home talent. We want to set one thing we did not do this year, except for Mike Bailey. We did not send people out of state to go battle. And I think that's going to be a big focus. Lada Zay was like, I got to get you to Atlanta. I want you to come battle out with us. And I was like, oh yeah, let me check with my boss. Like, I was like, oh, weird. I'm like getting pulled back in that world of like, do I have a career or do I have this? And can I do both? And I think I'm going to do both. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing to sit back and just be like, what we did in a year feels like we never left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's needed. As somebody that was, I've seen it grow from day one to day now, and it's unmatched. Like the talent, the resources, the self-reliance is awesome, and I love where it is, and I'm thankful for you guys like you that aren't you. Every time I see you, you've been doing it since what?
Rapping since like 2006 or so, 2007. Yeah.
Ever since I've seen you, you were wearing that blazer with that fro.
Yeah.
Ever since we've seen you, I have never heard anything negative about Atheist. I've never heard you talk down to anybody other than in a battle, right? Mm-hmm. I've never heard any negativity from you at all in any light. And I think it's very important for guys like you to be in the seat that you're in because you're objective. Mm-hmm. You're able to have fun. You're able to.
It is fun. Yeah, you should
not take yourself super serious, but then worry about, okay, how do we make Mike Masters better? Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel like we need. And I'm glad that you're in the seat that you're in.
Me too. I think that has been my thing since day one. Was just I think I'm a naturally positive person. I don't ever have beef with people. I think it's stupid. Like I'm here to have fun. So if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, when Mike Masters left, there were other leagues who were like, come battle with us. And I didn't do it because Mike Masters was home. It was fun. I moved on to other fun stuff. I was making music now. I was doing big shows. We were going, out of state with Froggy Fresh and doing all these, these cool things. And so they were like, hey, come do this. And the vibe was off. And I was like, this doesn't seem that fun. I'm only doing it for fun. Yeah. And I was like, we're all going to die. So like, have fun while you're here. Like, why not? If you can do it, do it. And so that's the attitude I'm trying to bring to Mike Masters is like, yeah, this is a weird hobby we have. We write mean poems about each other. Like, don't take it that serious. Like, take it seriously in your performance. But if somebody says something mean about you, like, that's the whole point. Nobody has thinner skin than battle rappers. And I don't understand why that is. It's really insane the amount of like hurt feelings behind the stage. Like you're just like, that's the whole point. Why are you here? Yeah. There's other types of rap. You can go do stand up. You go do like, the whole point is for someone to like pick your flaws apart and call you Bob Ross and just, you got to take it. Yeah. But it's weird that like, I'm even victim to it. It's a weird hobby where you are constantly defensive and you're in a negative headspace for 3 months while you're thinking about. I remember battling B-Side, who back in the day, I love B-Side, like incredible musician. His son Bobby is blowing up right now. And he was one of my favorite people. He had a radio show he would invite me on all the time. The second they were like, you and B-Side are going to battle, the whole thing switched to negative. And I hated it. I was like, for 3 months, he would post something on Facebook and I'd be like, how can I use that? So it's like, you have to like really try to separate this and like, don't take it that seriously. Like, you're going to have fun. I think that's why I try to like be funny in the battle. I'm not 3 rounds of gun bars because I'm not going to shoot you and you're not going to shoot me.
Yeah.
So that's stupid. Like, what a waste of time. Just be funny. It's harder to make. Hemis just was like, it's harder to make people laugh than to make people go,
Yep.
Now that was some wordplay. Like, make them laugh. Not everybody can do that. So that's what I'll do. But yeah, just have a good time. That's my whole message to everybody. We're here once. Just have a good time.
Absolutely, bro. Well, I appreciate you coming through, man. I want to do it again, and there's a lot that we didn't cover. I would love to get more specific about certain artists,
yes,
and things like that, and get your perspective on who we have coming up and whatnot. So we'll do another part 2. Maybe we'll bring in a friend or two and
absolutely
we'll chat.
I'll get Donnie on here.
Yeah, I want to have him on, man. I want to hear his story, man. I want to know if comedians have thin skin, because I've heard that they're very much sensitive people.
They are, yeah, and they do. And I got to say, shout out to you, man. Like, since day one, like before I even came to Utah, you were holding it down. And it's just, we see you, we appreciate it. I know you're off doing all these other amazing things, but like, you are a name that gets brought up a lot. You are a name that's appreciated. Like, we really just, since the second I showed up in Utah, you've been cool with me and been using your platform to help other people and help boost other people. Like, you are helping other people have fun. You are helping other people get the exposure they want. You are helping people with their careers. You are, right before here, you were talking about, I want to help people start their own shows and start their own movements. And it's just, not everybody's like that. You know, I try to really surround myself with people who feel that way, who are like, let's give back, let's hand out, let's help people up. I hate gatekeeping information. I hate, like, nobody wins with that.
Yeah.
The only reason I know how to do the stuff I do is because people took me under their wing and brought me to a pro wrestling school, or helped me get into film school, or helped me, brought me to Utah to rap. And so it's just, we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's huge.
I appreciate.
And congrats on all the success. Like, that's a lot of views in a year. That's
man. That's
which button was this? Was it this one?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. 500,000, bro.
That's
half
insane.
a mil. And I told in January, I was like, and we had like maybe 100 something thousand at the time, and I was like, man, I think we can really hit 500,000. I think we hit half a mil.
Yeah.
So as much as I don't like to be caught up in stats and stuff, it also helps. It helps being aware of where you are, how far you've come, and honestly set goals to where you want to be next month and the following month. So yeah, man, thank you to everybody that tunes in, that listens. I'm just a vessel, man. It's people across from me that are the shining star. So
thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This was the best. I'm so glad we finally did this.
Absolutely. Go ahead, plug all the stuff that you need to plug.
So Mike Masters Alliance, find us on, every social media platform. We're, throwing stuff up on TikTok now. So Mike Masters is the future. We're doing shows. We're trying to do one every 6 weeks or so. We've got a huge one coming up in March, bringing out all these famous battle rappers. So follow us on Instagram, follow us everywhere, Mike Masters Alliance. For my music, you can Rhyme Time Rapper on Instagram. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music. I got albums called Season 4, Gnarly, Topanga, Thanks for the Burgers. So working on some new music now. I'm working on a new album that's me and all local artists. It's going back to my first album where I was like, hey, these are all these people I want to work with and I'm watching. So I'm doing a new album with, it's like the bucket list. I was like, how do I not have a song with Pat Maine? We're doing that on this album.
Oh,
so that's what I'm working on now. And we're doing a bunch of shows and Rhyme Time Rapper. Appreciate the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one last question as you were naming off all that. Do you watch MMA at all?
I do, yeah.
So for me, mixed martial arts, there's a definitive heavyweight champion of the world, right? Will Mike Masters ever get to the point where there is a ranking system where we have a number one battle rapper in the state? Because right now it's all subject to opinion.
For sure.
But we don't have a definitive, hey, this is your record, this is who you've beat, this is why you get this ranking.
So starting early next year, it's crazy you asked that. This is going to sound like we planted this. Like, hey, at the end, will you ask me this exact question? but we are doing a Mike Masters tournament. And so the tournament's going to bring in, I don't know, 14, 16 of like the best guys from here. And we're going to put them through a funneling system where it's going to end up with, the tournament winner. And I think there'll be a big prize, and we'll call them the champion, and they'll have to defend that. And I don't know if we'll go full wrestling with the title belts, but we should. I know King of the Dot did that with the chain. I know different leagues have done that in different ways. And but the tournament's going to be the first step to really naming like who is put them through the paces, put them through, start against lower seed guys. If you're a lower seed guy, fight your way up. This year's been so cool to see some people who in their first battle, you're like, he's fine. And now you're like, oh my God, like this guy's killing it. So it's that tournament is really going to be interesting to see who makes it to each level, how they're all judged, because you got to have a winner to move on. And then the opportunities that winner is going to get, they don't even know. They don't even know what's going to come for them. But you win that tournament, and it's just like Mike Masters is invested in you, and they're flying people in. And also, I should have said this, if you want a battle rep, hit up Mike Masters. Like, we're putting on draft events. If you've never done it before, come out to a battle, see what it's like. Throw your name in the hat. We'll get you on the card, and we'll find somebody at your skill level to battle, and we'll work you up, and we'll help you develop. And, you could be the next Spades. So please hit us up. We're always looking for new battle rappers, and, get your name in the tournament and see if you make it to the end. It's the King of the Ring, baby.
Mortal Kombat style.
That Mortal Kombat style.
Who's going to be Liu Kang? Don't be Jax, because Drax was whack.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for, again, tuning in. Make sure you subscribe if you're on YouTube. YouTube gang, those numbers are going up, and it's all because of you. Tell a friend about the podcast. If you want to buy a shirt, a hoodie, allrawk.com, ALLRAWK.com. Again, thank you, Atheist, for coming
Anytime.
over. And I hope y'all have the day you deserve. Always protect your light. We out. Peace.